like, why is this coming back that often? And I've thought about it so many times also before this, that like, it's amazing how strong your brain is. And what if I could use it in a better way? So I was just mostly very frustrated and scared of what was happening, and I didn't really see a way out. And then I really got also, of course, very depressed because I thought it was something wrong with me. I'm like, I'm always gonna have this situation, like it's gonna haunt me. So, I mean, I wasn't suicidal, but I was like, if this is gonna be my life, then what's the point? But no, it's nothing inherently wrong with you. That's like, you don't have to beat yourself up for having this issue. It's you're not alone, and it's definitely something that you can, you know, master in the future.
Hi everyone, and welcome to yet another really special Talking Insomnia episode. We have Lisa with us. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Daniel.
Anytime. And just for the audience to know, you actually sent a message. You were just saying like, thanks so much for the content. It's been really helpful. And then I said, hey, maybe you want to be a guest on the show. You said, yes, here we are. So with that said, I know very little. So I'm, very excited to hear your story and to share this with the community. But with that said, tell us in your words, how did you start having trouble sleeping, Lisa?
Thank you, first of all. It's so nice to be here on the other side of of this whole experience. But yeah, so for me, I've always been a light sleeper, like since I was a kid, basically. So having trouble sleeping, like when traveling or when having an exam or so. So that's always been with me on some level. But the first time I really got like more serious issues was when I was 15. So I'm 34 now, so almost 20 years ago. And that was when I started high school. And basically I started a class that was I got very stressed by the competition in the class and some of the topics. So basically I think then it was maybe 2 months or something that I had like serious problems with sleeping. I went to the school nurse for help and so on. And in the end, it ended up with me just changing the direction within. So I went from, natural science to social sciences. And then once I got less stressed, I slept better. So at that point, I didn't see the connection with, being afraid of sleep, but just that I was stressed and it was the wrong choice of high school, basically. So that was the first time around. And then it's happened like connected to, for example, I went on an exchange to Singapore during uni. So in connection with big changes and like high stress levels, basically. So when I was on exchange, it happened. It also happened a couple of times when I changed jobs. And the way I handled it in the beginning, it was, basically thinking that it's the job it's a problem with or whatever. So I changed jobs or so. So that was my way of dealing with it. But it, of course, strengthened my belief that, well, first of all, I can't handle stress. And second of all, sleep will always be, an issue for me, basically.
Let me just jump in there with a quick question. So when you, for example, had a new job, you would be stressed, you had some trouble sleeping. Would you then like sometimes decide to change jobs basically just because of sleep or other things as well?
Well, I think it's actually a bit interesting because it happened a few times. So during school and university. So actually at my first job, I knew it was a very stressful environment. And I even went to the psychologist beforehand and said, I will sleep badly now, probably. So I need strategies to handle it. And he said like, oh, it's crazy. Like I've never experienced anyone going to like a psychiatrist or a psychologist proactively. So I had it in the back of my head, and that of course reinforced the problem once I started at these jobs. But coming back to your question, I would say that was the biggest reason. But I also, of course, saw it as a sign that I'm not in the right place. I'm not very happy here. So it wasn't that I loved the job and then didn't sleep. So the sleep was what made me take the step. But in those cases, I actually haven't regretted it either, because it's been, it was places that I didn't really enjoy anyways.
Okay. Sorry for that. Yeah, there's just a little context. It was very nice, but yeah, carry on.
Yeah, thanks. No, and then so this, yeah, so on and off this happened. I think in total it's happened 6-7 times, and every period it's been a couple of months at least that I've been struggling. And then I would say it's the 2 last times that's been like by far the worst ones. So I'm just going to try to run through those 2. And the first one, so this was 3.5 years ago. I got a new job in Berlin. So I am from Stockholm, Sweden, but I'm currently living in Berlin. And I got this new job in Berlin. That was, well, for me, a big step career-wise. And I had also just met a new partner, who is now my husband. So it all turned out well in the end. And when I accepted the position, I immediately started getting worried that, like, okay, is this too big of a step? Will I be stressed? Will I sleep bad? And I even had a therapy session talking about this with a therapist that I was seeing at the time. And then I went to Berlin to start. And so I went from Stockholm to Berlin to have my 2, like it was during COVID. So I worked mostly from Stockholm in the beginning, but the 2 weeks, the first weeks I went there. And I brought sleeping pills with me. So I was already, you know, waiting for poor sleep to happen, which, yeah, I've learned now is a recipe for making it happen. And I came to this job and role, and it was quite chaotic. So the workplace wasn't maybe the best in terms of, you know, clarity and work safety and so on. So, of course, this just reinforced my idea that this is stressful. I will not be able to handle it. So just within, I think, 2 months or something, I started sleeping very badly. And yeah, and then, of course, I got stressed. In the first few weeks, I was stressed about the job. But then, of course, that changed into being stressed out about not sleeping. And I think around 3 months in, I went on sick leave for a month or so, and it stabilized a bit. And then I came back. But as soon as I came back, it got bad again. So basically, I went on sick leaves for several months. And at this point, of course, you do sleep even though you don't think that you sleep. But my impression myself was that I slept maybe 5 hours a week or something. And in terms of, like, of course, my anxiety was, you know, off the roof. And I think I lost like 10 kilos or something. I moved, my partner then, he also had a job in Berlin. So he moved to Berlin and I moved into my parents and spent, yeah, a few months there. And my mom actually also got sick because she saw me feeling so badly. And I lost around like 10 kilos, maybe I said that already. And like basically physically, I couldn't do anything. I went on a few walks, but otherwise I was just staying at home and then trying to meet friends and so, but I was a wreck, obviously. So I've also heard that afterwards, I've heard that several friends who thought that I was, you know, they were worried that I would die, basically. What they said now afterwards. And then I was afraid myself that, like, if this is going to continue, then...
What were your thoughts at the time? What were you thinking was happening to you?
Well, it wasn't... Of course, we were... I don't remember in your book or in your... what it's called, before you really understand what's happening. I mean,
like the Oz. You're in Oz.
Exactly. I was definitely in Oz. And I mean, I've done so many different things to try to handle the sleep. So I tried all of these, you know, yoga, meditation. I also tried different medications and so on. So I also went into, you know, Facebook groups and whatnot. So I was, of course, trying to find out, like, what can I do to manage this? But in my head, I mean, I didn't really understand, like, why is this coming back that often? And I've thought about it so many times also before this, that like, it's amazing how strong your brain is. And what if I could use it in a better way? So I was just mostly very frustrated and scared of what was happening. And I didn't really see a way out.
Yeah. So you had, you probably, maybe to some degree, you realized this has something to do with stress and anxiety, but there was probably also to some degree you were afraid that there's something medically wrong with me. I'm losing weight. Something medical is wrong with this, something like that.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think I've always understood that it's related to stress, but I didn't understand that sleep itself was a stressor. Right. I just thought it was a result from the stress, but not that, you know, I had to also deal with my approach to sleep. But yeah, and at that time actually, so I was on sick leave, and I spent several months then with my parents. But then my partner's mother had been on this alternative course, which included, you know, fasting, meditation, therapy, whatnot. You're isolated for a week, and you just try to get all of your feelings out. And she really, you know, pushed me to do this course, and I did it. And so this is then maybe 4 or 5 months after it all started. And I don't know why, but that at that point worked. So after that week, I just felt like a new person. And I thought, now I'm done, and now this will never happen again. And then I went down to Berlin, and I worked in Berlin for a year without any problems. But I was still I took, I don't know what you say in the US, but venlafaxine, like an antidepressant.
Yeah, it's like a type of, it's not an SSRI, but it's like a combined SSRI, but it's like an antidepressant, yeah.
Exactly. And I also got, because also before I went on the course, I also went to the psychiatric, like acute psychiatric clinic. And there I also got tapering, which is this like antipsychotic thing from my sleep, which didn't work first, but then after the course, I kept on taking those two, but I still believe that, you know, I've learned everything I need to learn. So I got off the antidepressant after half a year, and that went well. And then in the summer, 1 year later, so now we're in 2022, I decided that now I'm going to go off this ketiapin. So I took it every night, a very small dose, but still. And I've seen a few others here on your podcast that thought that it was a difficult drug, like that you get a lot of bad reactions and so on. For me, it wasn't. I didn't struggle with the medicine, so for me it worked okay. But then I wanted to get off it entirely during my holiday in the summer 2022, and I tried then one night to just not take it. And then, of course, I didn't sleep the entire night. And I got like panic attacks basically during the night. And then I got scared after that. So it was like curtains down, basically. And I was like, shit, okay, I haven't learned anything. And I still had this issue. And now I'm dependent on this heavy drug. So I wasn't stressed before. I mean, this was my holiday, so I wasn't stressed at all. But I think this thought that came to my mind that was, okay, I'm still having an issue. It got me down a bad path. So within a few months again, without being stressed, I again started sleeping bad. And now, of course, with all the, you know, trauma from before, I got both very desperate, but also that was maybe the first time I was like, okay, something is really wrong with me. Because now I'm not stressed. I can't blame it on a bad workplace. I can't blame it on anything. And still I'm here. So I thought it, I know a few friends mentioned it, that they thought I was bipolar, for example. And I did all of this crazy, I went to like Chinese medicine, acupuncture, like Chinese herbs. I got some tip at some point that I should have like sesame oil on my body to get calm. So every night I actually put all of my body in the sesame oil. So yeah, ridiculous. But yeah, so I did everything you could, and it became a full-time job. I again went on sick leave for a few months. So just time-wise, this holiday was in August, and I think in November it got really bad, and then December, January I was on sick leave again, staying with my parents again. So I went home for Christmas, and then I stayed there. And then I really got also, of course, very depressed, because I thought it was something wrong with me. I'm like, I'm always going to have this situation, like it's going to haunt me. So, I mean, I wasn't suicidal, but I was like, if this is going to be my life, then what's the point, basically? And also just being exhausted. So it was a very dark time. And also just, I know you often ask about like medications, because of course I went back on this quetiapine, which I had in a very low dose before, like 25 milligrams. And I again ended up at the psychiatric clinic, or I put myself there because I was desperate for help. So they bumped it up to 125 milligrams. And I got 2 antidepressants, and what was it called? Memacin or something, Terralin, something, another thing for sleeping.
Okay. Yeah.
So it was a whole
cocktail
of stuff. And of course it didn't work anyways. But yeah, and there, I think it was in February, then 2023.
Yeah.
That, well, first of all, I found a very good psychiatrist, who of course also he was also the one helping with some of the medications, but he was also a psychologist. So he really dug deep into like, what is your thinking around this? And he said that this is probably also like similar to OCD, that like you're having all of these safety behaviors that, makes the problem keep going, basically. So he was maybe the first voice of reason. And he also said, like, you should probably do less rather than more, etc., etc. And then just, I think, maybe 2 weeks after that I started meeting him, your YouTube channel popped up on my feed. And first I actually saw a headline of one of your entries, which said something about CBT. And I've tried CBT many years back, it didn't work. So first I saw you and I was like, no, CBT, no way I'm going down that road. So I saw you, and then I think it was maybe 2 more weeks more until you again popped up. And then I watched like a full episode. And then it resonated.
Do you remember, was it an episode where I was like teaching, or was it one of these, like this episode with an interview?
I think it was a few where you were teaching, and one was about, you did some connection between OCD and sleep, which of course resonated. But it was several. I think I watched maybe 5, 6 in a row once I started watching, and I would say the first reaction was just relief. That like, okay, it's a whole community here that has this, and maybe I don't have this, whatever, bipolar disease that I will be struggling with my whole life. And I was very relieved just to hear that, like, you don't have to, you don't have to spend your whole life focusing on sleep. It's better if you do the opposite. So that was, for me, being A-type personality, it was nice to just hear a professional say that I can relax, basically. But yeah, so after that I read all of your books, and I continue watching these also success stories. I remember one specifically. She's called Lily, I think. Peace from Within is her Insta account.
Yeah.
So I saw her success story, and then I started following her also on Instagram, which also, of course, I feel stress and anxiety on other areas as well. So it's been very helpful in general to also follow her. And I would say my sleep got better quite quickly. Like, I stopped with one of the medications right away, and I started sleeping well, basically right away. But I was still on quite a lot of meds. so in March, something like that, I was stabilized and I could go back to Berlin, and I came back to my job, starting on 25% and then increasing until the summer. So between March and November, I just tapered off. So I didn't fully follow your advice to stop entirely or like right away, go cold turkey. So I tapered off this quetiapine, which is the one that I had.
Which is, by the way, for the audience, I think I realized that's what they call Seroquel here. Most people.
Yeah.
That's the trade name. And by the way, like I know in sometimes, particularly in my earlier videos, I used to talk about how, like, if you're okay with taking medication, that's, decide to do that. If you're not, like, come off it, whatever. But I think, a slow taper, like it's whatever is your way is a wonderful way. So just for the audience. But yeah, that was a little comment.
Yeah, that was good. Good that you clarify. No, and I think for me it was good. Both this self-kindness approach, like what do I feel ready to do, and of course after having troubles so intensively, it felt more safe for me to take it slow. And it was also good because then I had the psychiatrist that also supported my approach and was every time I was tapering off one step, I said, like, no, I'm probably going to sleep poorly again. And he's like, no, probably not. You've learned a lot, and then I would say, so until November 2023, I tapered off. And then in November, I was going to quit entirely. And I realized that I think that, like, the last step was the most difficult one. So then I prepped with, like, activities for the night. Like, I made my own lamps and, I don't know, all of these hobby projects. So I prepared well, and then I quit, and I had, I think, 2 weeks of very unsteady sleep, where I then, during the nights, because of course, theoretically, I understood everything, but I think the body still had some fear. So yeah, during the night, I had several nights where I didn't sleep at all, but I just tried to stay calm and just do my hobby projects. And I think it was like 2 weeks in that I had one night that I didn't sleep at all, but my body was entirely calm. And then in the morning, I realized that I had energy. So I was like, oh my God, I haven't slept at all, and still I have energy. And then I think it clicked also within my body that, like, oh, it's not the sleeplessness that makes me tired. It's the anxiety that has made me this tired through, like, all this time. And I think when that clicked, I just slept well after that. So it was like 2 weeks of not struggle, but practice. And then since then, so I'm off the sleeping support and everything. I've had a few, as I mentioned to you, I also got married this summer. So it's been a hectic spring. But so I've had a few bad nights, but, like, my body hasn't been stressed out about it. A few times my mind has, spiraled a bit, but I've been able to stop myself quite quickly. So yeah.
Wonderful. Wow, you told your story so well. And there was some questions I had. One was your psychiatrist. Was he in Sweden or in Germany?
In Sweden.
Okay. But you managed to still work with him even though you were in Germany, or?
Yeah, that's so I am actually seconded by the Swedish state to Germany. So I have the right to have hospital care in both countries while I'm here. So since I was in Stockholm when I was feeling bad, because I then stayed with my parents over Christmas, I went to him. Yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
That was very rare, but I'm one of the lucky ones, I guess, that could have that.
Totally understand. And now I was curious, like, as his idea so that this is similar to OCD, very similar to how we think about things. Yeah. Did you ever kind of share what you were learning here with him? Did you ever discuss that, or?
Yeah. And he, no, I shared quite a lot from what I learned from your podcast and the books. And he was he was like, yeah, this Daniel sounds very reasonable. He has the right approach. Because he's also just, I guess, as you, quite skeptical maybe to the regular system. And he's also a private practitioner because he didn't really resonate with Swedish system. So.
Ah, how interesting. Yeah, maybe later on you can share the name, and maybe I could get in touch with them. It would just be interesting, but very nice. And you already talked about this, but maybe just to kind of emphasize or talk a little bit more about it. There were this, like, when you stop the seroquel, and you're right, like, from a lot of people, tapering down often can be fairly smooth, like you're lowering. And though a lot of people telling me, like, I know at this point I'm on this like homeopathic dose, I know it doesn't do anything, but still going from something to nothing is often the biggest kind of psychological step. So just echoing that, yes, this is very common. But then what I wanted to kind of emphasize or talk a little bit more about was, then you had these 2 weeks or so that were quite bumpy. You slept little, but I'm guessing it, like, you were awake at night, which you didn't want to. Nobody wants that. But I'm guessing it felt different than it had in the past, right? Can you expand a little bit on that?
Yeah, I think the first night, it didn't feel as strongly as before, since I had the knowledge, but my body was still very stressed, I would say, like having heart palpitations and all that, which I've experienced before. But I think just by practicing it, like still sticking to, trying to have fun in the night, made it calm down slowly but steady. So I think the last week was definitely a big difference. And I think also just mentally understanding what was happening.
Yeah. It sounds like you almost went into this with almost looking at this as a practice. Like, this is going to kind of give me the opportunity to be awake at night if that happens, and do something that I like to do. Did you have that kind of mindset?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. And also trying to have fun with it is an exaggeration, but try to enjoy it at least. And also, I mean, personally, I've also been very interested in like psychology in general. So I've also seen other parts of myself before that like, as long as you know why something is happening, it's quite easy to change your habits or whatever it is. So I also get quite enthusiastic when I realize, oh, this is a way for me to change something about myself. So it was also like an experiment on myself.
Yeah, I understand that. Makes total sense. And now I think I just have these kind of my 2 last questions for you, which are, one is if you could, travel back in time and tell you something when you were having a hard time, what would you pick?
Well, I think the first thing, and this is especially for this last time, to really tell myself that no, it's nothing inherently wrong with you. And also that, like, you don't have to beat yourself up for having this issue. It's you're not alone, and it's definitely something that you can master in the future. And I think also, so this is connected to your channel, but also this Peace from Within channel, that like there's actually less for me to do. Like, the more you relax, the more you focus on what is fun, the better you will feel. And I actually remember, because I said this then to my husband when a few weeks in, after I saw your channel, I was like, almost in shock. I was like, apparently I'm supposed to do things that I think is fun. Like, that's the solution, basically. And he was like, yeah, I think that's quite a good approach generally in life. So I've also tried, I know probably your next question as well, like I've tried to have that approach now in other areas as well, to just have fun, and then the rest will work out.
Yeah. You knew that was going to be my next question, which was exact. And so you kind of partially answered it, but maybe you can expand on, like, are there other areas of life where you've seen kind of this approach has been helpful?
Yeah, definitely. And as I mentioned before, I'm this A-type personality, like high performer. And I think it's been a really good learning experience for me to also then, because it started with the sleep, but then I've also really much practiced, so continued this experiment on myself. Like at work, I've tried to not prepare before presentations, and whatever it can be, misspell emails, like anything. As soon as I realize that I'm overanalyzing, I try to do the opposite, and it's just much more fun when you actually, don't go into the whatever.
Yeah, the pressurizing yourself and all this stuff. Yeah.
So it's helped me in many areas for sure.
Wonderful. Super nice to hear. Yeah, I just want to say thank you, Lisa, for sharing your story, for being here to help the community, and we'll be in touch.
Yes. Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Hi there, Coach Dial here, and I hope you thoroughly enjoyed the video that you just saw. If you are finding yourself thinking a lot about what your life would be like if you weren't struggling with sleep, if you had bandwidth for everything else in life that you want to do, if you felt like yourself again, if you didn't even give the night a second thought, well, then I have news for you. Leaving the struggle is actually so much easier than we often think. Everything that you need truly is out here on our channel in our free content. The one thing that can be tricky though is that sometimes you don't really see where you are not contextualizing the teachings to yourself. And what also can be tricky is that it can feel a bit lonely and isolating to leave the struggle on your own. If this applies to you, then head over to thesleepcoachschool.com, because we have programs where you can join a community of people that are leaving the struggle, which is led by coaches who have already done so. And so if this, again, sounds like something you'd be interested in, head over to our website, thesleepcoachschool.com, and check out our Insomnia Immunity program. And if you decide to join, we can't wait to see you on the other side.